The first thing you notice is the silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that feels wrong, as if the world itself has forgotten how to breathe. Imagine waking up in a small European town in the mid-14th century. The year is around 1348. Morning fog hangs low over narrow streets, swallowing rooftops and church spires. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rings. Not for celebration, not for prayer, but for the dead. And today, as strange as it sounds, life must still continue. You step outside your wooden house. The air is cold, damp, and carries a scent that people no longer speak about directly. Doors remain shut longer than they used to. Conversations are shorter. Eye contact is avoided. Everyone is pretending in their own way that normal life still exists. But it doesn't. Because this is Europe during the Black Death. Historians estimate that between 1347 and 1351, the plague killed tens of millions across Europe, perhaps 1/3 of the entire population. But numbers, as impressive as they are, fail to capture what it felt like to live through it. Numbers do not tremble, people do. You walk toward the marketplace. It should be busy at this hour. Instead, it feels abandoned. A few vendors sit behind half-empty stalls. Some goods are untouched. Others are simply not there anymore because the families who once sold them are gone. A woman hurries past you, clutching her shawl tightly. She does not look at anyone. Looking at people has become dangerous, not because of crime, but because of fear. Fear of illness, fear of death, fear of the unknown rules that no one truly understands. At this time, people believed many things about the plague. Some thought it came from bad air. Others believed it was punishment from God. Very few understood the role of fleas and rats, which quietly carried the bacterium Yersinia pestis across cities and trade routes. Knowledge was limited, but fear was not. It is striking how human beings, even in the absence of scientific understanding, still try to create meaning. When reality becomes too chaotic, the mind builds explanations, even if they are wrong, just to feel some sense of control. You pass the church. The doors are open. Inside, candles burn, even in daylight. Prayer has become more frequent, almost desperate. Priests work tirelessly, performing last rites for those who fall ill. Some of them, too, will not survive. A group gathers near a cart. It is covered in cloth. No one speaks loudly. There is no need. Everyone understands what it means when the city carts move slowly through the streets. The dead must be taken away. And yet, despite everything, the town does not completely stop. Bread is still baked. Water is still drawn from wells. Children still run for a few moments before being called back inside. Life, even under pressure, refuses to disappear entirely. But today is only beginning. And by midday, everything will feel different again. By midday, the town begins to change in ways that are almost invisible at first. Not sudden, not dramatic, but quiet, like a slow dimming of light. The marketplace, which earlier felt merely empty, now feels avoided. People no longer linger. They move quickly, with purpose that is not about work anymore, but escape. Even ordinary interactions carry hesitation, as if every word spoken might somehow bring misfortune closer. You notice something else. The ringing of bells is more frequent now. Not celebratory bells, not even regular hourly ones. These are death bells. Each toll is a message, a silent announcement that someone's name has been added to a growing list no one is writing down properly anymore. Records are breaking down. Churches try to keep track of burials, but there are too many, too fast, too many lives ending in too little time. A man near the well coughs sharply. The sound alone causes people nearby to step away instantly, not out of cruelty, but instinct. Survival is beginning to reshape social behavior in real time. What is often forgotten about pandemics in history is not only the scale of death, but the speed at which trust disappears. Neighbors stop trusting neighbors. Friends begin to hesitate before helping each other. Fear does not just kill, it rearranges society from within. You pass a narrow street where a door is marked with a crude symbol, a red cross. This is not decoration, it is warning. Inside, someone is sick, and everyone knows what that means now. The house is already partially abandoned. Food is left outside, untouched, waiting for someone brave or desperate enough to collect it. A group of monks moves through the street carrying small bundles of herbs and cloths soaked in vinegar. They believe in protection through scent, through ritual cleansing. Some wear cloths over their faces, not true masks in the modern sense, but early attempts to distance themselves from what cannot be seen. And the invisible enemy is what terrifies everyone most. Because no one can see it, no one can predict it. It arrives in households without invitation, spreads from person to person without warning, and leaves behind silence that feels heavier than noise. In a small alley, you see a child sitting alone. No one approaches, not because they don't care, but because everyone is afraid of what proximity might mean. The child is not crying. That is somehow worse. In the distance, carts continue to move. Their rhythm is steady, too steady. They do not rush anymore because urgency has lost meaning. There are always more bodies than time, yet life still insists on existing in fragments. A baker still checks his oven. A merchant still counts coins. A dog still searches for scraps near abandoned stalls. These small continuities feel almost rebellious against the scale of collapse happening around them. History often presents catastrophes as unified events, but lived experience is fragmented. Even in the worst moments, people do not experience history. They experience hunger, fatigue, fear, and brief, stubborn routines that refuse to vanish. As the afternoon stretches on, the sky begins to shift toward a duller tone. Not yet evening, but already heavier. And with it comes a deeper awareness spreading through the town. Today is not ending gently. It is being taken away piece by piece. And by the time night arrives, the silence will no longer feel empty. It will feel occupied. Evening arrives not like a soft transition, but like a curtain being pulled down too quickly. The light fades, and with it, the fragile sense of order that still held the town together during the day. Now the streets feel different again, not merely empty, but withdrawn, as if the town itself is trying to hide from what it has become. Torches are lit earlier than usual. Their flames flicker against stone walls, casting shadows that move like uncertain thoughts. Doors are barred more firmly. Conversations inside houses drop to whispers, and the bells continue. They never truly stop now. Each sound from the church tower travels through the air like a reminder that time is no longer measured by hours, but by loss. You pass by a group gathered outside a home. They are not speaking loudly. In fact, there is very little speech at all anymore in moments like this. Instead, there are gestures, a nod, a lowered gaze, a hand briefly raised in blessing before someone turns away. Inside the house, someone has likely just died. One of the most haunting aspects of the Black Death is not only the death toll, but the speed at which death becomes ordinary. What would normally be shocking becomes routine. Human psychology adapts not by rejecting horror, but by compressing it into something survivable. A priest arrives late, not because he is careless, but because he is overwhelmed. He moves from house to house, offering last rites where he can. Some doors are no longer opened for him at all, either out of fear or because there is no one left conscious to open them. Further down the street, a small fire burns in a metal bowl. Herbs are thrown into it. Smoke rises thick and bitter. People believe it purifies the air. They stand near it for moments at a time, as if trying to negotiate with the invisible. There is no certainty anywhere, only attempts. You notice that groups have become smaller. Families once walked together. Now individuals move alone or in pairs at most. The idea of gathering feels increasingly dangerous, as if closeness itself has become a kind of risk. And yet, despite all of this, there are still acts of care. A woman leaves bread outside a neighbor's door without knocking. A man carries water to a household that is not his own. These actions are quiet, almost invisible, but they exist, small resistances against collapse. It is easy, from a modern perspective, to imagine societies under plague as purely broken. But that is not accurate. Even in extreme conditions, social bonds do not disappear completely. They narrow, they become more selective, but they persist. As night deepens, the temperature drops. Fog begins to rise again, swallowing torchlight and softening the edges of buildings. The town becomes less structured, more fluid, as if reality itself is loosening. Somewhere in the distance, a dog howls, and for a brief moment, everything feels paused, not calm, not safe, but suspended, as if the night is holding its breath and waiting for something that has not yet finished arriving. Night in the town is no longer simply darkness. It is something heavier, a presence that presses down on rooftops and narrow streets, filling every corner where light cannot reach. The fog thickens. Torch flames struggle against it, bending and shrinking as if reluctant to continue burning. Shadows stretch in strange directions, distorted by uneven stone walls and tired eyes. Inside homes, people remain awake longer than they used to. Sleep feels unsafe, almost like surrender. Families sit close together, not speaking much. Not because there is nothing to say, but because words now feel fragile, as if speaking too much might make reality worse. Outside, the carts return. They move more slowly at night, but they still move. Always. Their wheels scrape against stone, creating a sound that becomes familiar in the worst possible way. A sound that no longer surprises anyone. They are not collecting hope. They are collecting what remains. In historical accounts of the Black Death, there is often focus on mass graves and mortality rates. But what is equally important, and less often emphasized, is the normalization of removal. The act of taking bodies away becomes part of daily rhythm, like bread being baked or water being drawn. In a small square near the church, a lone bell rings again. Its sound is softer now, almost tired. It echoes through empty streets and disappears quickly into the fog. A figure stands beneath it, a watchman or gravedigger. It is hard to tell. His posture is still, but not calm. He listens more than he moves, as if waiting for instructions that never come. There is no central coordination anymore. Cities and towns function through fragments of habit, memory, and obligation. Systems are stretched beyond their intended limits, and yet they continue. Not because they are strong, but because they have not fully collapsed. A faint light appears in a window. Someone is still awake, perhaps praying, perhaps simply unable to sleep. Across the street, another window remains dark. There is no pattern anymore that can be reliably interpreted. The town is becoming a collection of isolated moments rather than a unified place. And then, slowly, something subtle happens. The number of sounds decreases. Not all at once, but gradually. Fewer footsteps, fewer voices. Even the wind seems to soften. It is not peace, it is depletion. What the Black Death reveals, beyond tragedy and statistics, is how adaptable human existence is under extreme pressure. Society does not simply collapse like a broken object. It reshapes itself, unevenly, painfully, into something minimal enough to survive. But survival is not the same as life as it was known before. As the night reaches its deepest point, the town remains, still standing, still breathing, in a reduced and altered form. Tomorrow will not bring resolution, only repetition. And somewhere beyond the fog and stone, Europe continues to endure, one day at a time, unaware that it is already being rewritten.